You are now tuned in to Let's Talk About Healing.
And for the version of me that got me here did its job. But this version of me has to evolve again in order to get to the next level.
We're so focused on the negative outcome. Change the narrative that's going on in your head instead of looking at what can go wrong. Obsess over what can go right.
That part.
Now here's your host, Yvonne Pierre.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Healing. I'm your host, Yvonne Pierre, and I'm joined by my guest, co-host, April F. Draine. Today, we're talking about purpose planting season. Hello, April.
Hey, Yvonne.
This is going to be, even though we talked about purpose, but this is going to be a really deep and a necessary conversation because I think a lot of people get stuck on the planting and nurturing season. So when I was doing my prepping for the show, I read that there are 3 different seasons when you're pursuing your purpose. And I want to go over that before we get started. I wanted to point out these 3 seasons, which is planting, nurturing, and the harvest season. The planting season is when you explore, you set goals. That's when you discover what you're interested in and your specific goals that match your passion. But also in this planting season is when you are doing things that plant seeds. For example, because my goal is to be a speaker, a planting seed may look like for me to do some free speaking gigs, to figure out what my message is. Then you have nurturing season, which is to develop skills and relationships, investing in learning, like education and cultivating positive relationships to support those goals and building essential skills. That's the nurturing season. So first you're trying to figure out what it is. Then the next season, you're trying to figure out, okay, what relationships do I need to build and how do I build the skills needed to accomplish this goal? And then, of course, the harvest season is to achieve and reflect. So that's the season that you enjoy the results from your efforts and you achieve your goals. And then you taking that time to reflect on your journey and your accomplishments. But I think all 3 seasons, they're ongoing. You're constantly planting, nurturing. But I think the hardest 2 seasons, of course, are the planting and the nurturing season. And I heard Tyler Perry say years ago, because people kept saying, oh, he was an overnight sensation. So I remember him responding saying, it took me 15 years to be an overnight sensation. Yeah. And then you hear some people, it took them 5 years. It may have took them 2 years or a year. It really depends. So everybody's season is different.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said what you said because in me also preparing for today's show, I've written so many different things and I was trying to find just highlights like, okay, what would you define this as? I knew it was different phases of planting, but I was like, I didn't go as deep. And the fact that you said the way you defined the planting season, because as I was writing, I'm like, okay, what was this season of my life? You literally have just highlighted the 3 areas that I was like, okay, that's what that is. Oh, that better helps me in today's conversation as far as how I feel we can flow. So I actually feel so much better because it was this episode I'm excited for. And like you said, we're going to go deep, but I'm so grateful that you started off with those 3 phases because I think it'll really help direct today's conversation. So I'm so glad you did what you did. That's another God move. So I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk.
Okay. God move.
Come on in.
Okay. So can you share like a personal experience that you felt like the purpose planting season or the seed planting season in your life? Like, what were the key actions and decisions that you took during this time?
So I will say the seeds, kind of like what you've already mentioned, when you define the planting season, will likely have moments where you're planting seeds and you're exploring and setting goals. When I was, from the time I was younger up until now, I can look back now and see certain seeds that were there all along, but I didn't know it as a seed. And it was when I had the opportunity in 2015 to become a women's ministry leader at a church that my family and I had just become new members of. At that time, I was 34. And up until then, I'd been in church. I'd had my own experiences of church, grew up in a family church where everybody knew each other. And then when my husband and I got married, I was in church again and had opportunities to come be in the choir and help with, like a few things as far as like with the kids. But I always felt like, where's something that was always dear and near to me, especially when I went through my teenage pregnancy phase, was where is the group of women who are there to help guide women through the various seasons of life of womanhood? In my church growing up, I saw we had Women's Day where the women sang for the choir. I saw where the women worked in the kitchen. I saw where the women worked with the kids in Sunday school. I saw where the women served on the usher board. I saw where the women were the mothers in the mother board, and they sat in their white. And I saw all these different pockets, but it's like, where is the one setting for women to really be together, where are the older women talking to the younger women, or where is that space? Because I see us in everything else but one space where the purpose is for women to pour into each other, to share, and this is life. This is different phases of womanhood. This is womanhood in your teenage. I didn't see that space, and I always had the desire to see it, but I could never find it. So fast forward to 2015, and we're new members of a new church. My husband and children and they had gotten quickly involved. My kids quickly got involved with dance ministry and youth ministry. My husband got quickly involved with the leadership team and the ministry team, the ministerial staff. And I didn't find my place. I was just like, I'm here. And I didn't quite know what my place would be until I got a call one day. And the call was, hey, Pastor wanted me to give you a call because he really feels like that you're called to start a women's ministry. This will be your baby. You lead it. You start it however you see it. And I sat there and was like, what? Because it was something that I desired to have seen in various seasons and stages of my life as a young woman, as a single woman, as a married woman, a mother with one child, 3 children. And it was like, where's that one space? And here it is. I get this opportunity where I get to create it. And the pastor trusts me enough this is your baby. Okay, you just go ahead and get it started. Just let us know what you need, when you want to start, what space you need to have in the church, whatever announcements you need to make. And that was, I believe, one of the first opportunities that I really feel like my true planting season started. Like I had the seeds all along, but I just didn't have the ground to put it in. It was in my heart to see it, but I would see it in part, but it's like, where is that one space? That, I believe, was the beginning for me to really see what I felt God had put in my heart. But I don't know where that space is. But he gave me the ground finally in 2015, November 5th, 2015. We started our women's ministry. And here I was, 34 years old, in a new church where I knew no one. And it was another type of family church where everybody else knew each other. So I'm like, okay, I've been in this type of setting before, but this is new. These are older women, younger women, women with all kind of different backgrounds. And I'm called to lead. Okay, God, what does that look like? So, but to just pinpoint one specific season, I believe 2015 was the year that because that was also the year that I left corporate. And the day that I got the call was the day I was turning in my resignation letter to my job.
Wow.
So that I knew was a God moment, because my husband and I were getting ready to go out of town. And I said, well, let me go ahead and just turn in this resignation letter, this 2 weeks notice. I'm kind of scared, but let me go ahead and do it because I don't know why. I feel like I've done all I'm supposed to do here, but let me go ahead and write this letter.
It's time to move.
And on my lunch break, I remember the day and where I was. I get the call, and that was the call. Hey, Sister April, Pastor wanted me to give you the call to say, hey, he wants you to start a women's ministry. And I literally sat in that car. I was like, okay, God, here we go. So that's another reason why I knew it was the beginning of something, because I was ending corporate and beginning to start in a season of planting the seeds that he had given me in other areas of my life that I just didn't have the soil to place it in. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they didn't know, but God knew. And he heard you. And he said, okay, well, since she's not sure how to ask for it, let me send them to her.
I am not going to cry on this pod. I will not.
Yeah.
And I just might.
I mean, it was, wow, that was good. That was amazing. That was definitely a God moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need that.
Yeah.
We need the nudge. We need, and I like how you said the ground. You had it, but you didn't have, you had the seeds, but you didn't have the ground.
Yeah.
And you had the desire.
Yeah.
And he said he gives you the desires of your heart. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah. You saw the need. And the reason why you saw the need, because it was intended for you to see it.
And that's how God works. I mean,
yeah.
And as I continue to learn more about you in our conversations and these recordings, I'm still also learning from you what that looks like, you know, and what is a season for you. Because even though this is for others, I still like these one-on-ones. The introvert in me likes the one-on-one conversations because I get to share and you get to share. And I'm really interested in hearing from you, like what was a purpose planning season that you can probably look back on for yourself, or even if you're still in it now, however you want to define it. I'm really interested.
I'll say it's been a few planting seasons. And the one that I'll share today is advocacy.
Yeah.
Those who are new to the show, I have a 31 and a 21-year-old, but my 21-year-old, Zion has Down syndrome. And when he was turning 3 years old, up until that point, I had no interest in being a part of a support group or around other parents or nothing like that, because of the stigma that I didn't realize I had about support groups. Years later, I realized the significance of being in a support group and being around other parents is so different than being around parents that don't have the same experiences. He was turning 3 years old and getting ready to go into public school. And I was like, what is it like? What are their experiences?
Yeah.
And so I started, back then it was YouTube. Not YouTube, it was Yahoo. And so I joined some Yahoo groups. And I was networking with other families that had kids with Down syndrome. And I was devastated by what I was seeing. Parents struggling with accepting their kids, the negativity, the horror stories that I read and heard about. I was pacing the floor for like 2 weeks. I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Because I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't ignore it. And I felt like God was nudging me like, okay, I showed you this so you can do something about it. So I jumped in feet first. With no plan, no business plan, nothing. It went from a community, and back then they didn't have many communities. 2004 or 5 when I started, just before Facebook. And so I started looking for stories to promote and finding people that have Down syndrome and what amazing things that they're accomplishing. Because my thing was, I wanted people to see what they're capable of and what they can do, because we are constantly bombarded about what they can't do. So my Have You Heard is what it was called. And it eventually evolved into the Rise Awards and all this stuff. So I didn't realize I was burning out quick. Over the years, because that's when I started my online radio show. This was 2007 when I started the show. It was doing the advocacy, spreading positive awareness. And I was burning out because over the years I would get people to volunteer, but ultimately it was all on me. So I didn't realize that I actually prolonged the planning season.
Really?
Yeah. I prolonged it, but not on purpose. Building the relationships, I was nurturing it and all that stuff. But the thing was, I didn't have a vision for where I was going.
Oh, okay.
And that's critical. So I was constantly planting and building and planting and building, but I didn't have a vision for, okay, where am I going with this? So that's why I backed away from the radio show and everything. I said, I need to shut everything down.
Wow.
Until I figure out where I'm going. I've been planting and nurturing for many, many, many years. Now it's time for me to pull back, to make some decisions before I move forward, because I was constantly planting seeds, nurturing, building, and then I was like, well, where am I going?
And see, from the outside, somebody would think that again, I've been following you on Facebook, and I remember those years and the awards and the things that you were promoting, the work that you were doing through advocacy. And it's funny that you say that you think that you were prolonging it or prolonging the planning period, or because from my end, it looks like it was a harvest.
No.
And so what makes you feel like it wasn't necessarily? You just said because you didn't see where it was going, you didn't see a vision for it or have a vision for it. I'm just
I didn't have a vision, and I had so much on my plate. But then I need to really sit down and look at what I'm doing and why. What is my why? Okay. So I had to pull back so I can move forward. Instead of going and going and going and going, because I'm constantly planting and planting and planting and nurturing and nurturing and nurturing. And I think that's why I say I was prolonging it, because I'm pulling it up and replanting it. And I'm planting here, I'm planting there, I'm planting, and I'm like, there's no structure. There's structure in the projects that I'm doing. See, sometimes we hide behind, we're doing it for God.
Okay, go there.
Yes. So I buried myself in focusing on special needs. The reason why I said hiding behind God, I'm only doing projects that God put on my spirit. God put it on my spirit, I run with it and do it. And then when it's over, I don't know what I'm doing next until God tell me what to do. Then I start questioning, okay, but He gives you the desires of your heart. What is my mission? What is my purpose? Now, initially it's like, I got to get the word out. I got to get people, I want people to see them from a different perspective. I write film, I write books, I write all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't keep putting everything on hold to spread awareness, and I'm not doing the other things that I'm called to do.
Okay, I get where you're going. Okay, I hear you.
Yeah, I was avoiding really doing everything I was called to do, and I was hiding behind, I'm doing this because God asked me to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of, but He also asked you to do that.
Because sometimes we think it's either or. Sometimes it's both and. Like, He's calling me to do this along with me continuing to do the writing. And
it all goes together.
Yeah.
And I heard TD Jakes say that because I was like, but it's so many different things. This was maybe in my early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm confused
Yeah.
because there's so many different things I want to do
Yep.
and so many different things I want to accomplish. And I heard him say, because every time I pray on it, I hear the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was and he specifically said, when God gives you multiple gifts, it's not one or the other. He wants you to use all of it.
Mm.
Because I was afraid to ask for what I really wanted, which was another reason I was hiding behind my advocacy. It took me to realize, like, okay, years done went by. What am I doing?
Wow.
What am I doing? Where am I going? Because I had to get real with myself, because I said, even though on the outside I look very busy, but on the inside I was confused. On the inside, I'm like, okay, where are we going?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm constantly, I'm imagining me driving in a car, and I'm constantly pulling over like, but where are we going? Of course, you're not going to get to where you're trying to go if you don't know where you're going.
You don't know where you're aiming towards. Yeah.
Right. Like, what is and so I had to really get real with myself. And now I'm in the season of nurturing and planting, but with a purpose and with a mission.
Yeah.
And it's intentional.
Gotcha. Oh, that word, intentional.
So, which decision resonated most and gave you a profound sense of purpose?
You actually said, when you mentioned the word intentional, that is kind of one of the bigger things, because the investing in me, and you said that a bit, I guess, in the nurturing phase. And when you invest, I think that was one of the things you mentioned. I started to learn, okay, I'm given the opportunity and the responsibility of actually living out something that's always been in me with this women's ministry. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I know what I want to see. I have the desire, but I have not had any formal leadership training. I went to school and got my BA degree in management information systems. That deals completely only with computers and business. I don't have leadership training. I don't have the strong sense of communication that I desire to have. And I'm called in this season to actually walk out something. So I learned I have to start investing in leadership stuff and not waiting for our pastor at the time to tell me, okay, April, you're going to start going to these particular leadership classes and this. I started looking it up myself. So between 2015 and 2017, I started taking communication classes, continuing education classes with Dale Carnegie, just to give me a couple hours. So it was like a 12-week course that I would meet once a week with a different group of professionals. And I'm looking at like, I don't think I'm in the right group, but I'm already here now that I'm paid my money. But it was okay, if they're here to learn how to communicate better in the corporate space, okay, I'm going to learn from this group. And that was great. I started doing ministry and leadership trainings and conferences. I went to TD Jakes Pastors and Leadership Conference in Dallas, my husband and I. It was I just want to go. Then I was finding out different women conferences that were in the city, and I would hear about somebody who invited me to something, to different conferences and overnight women retreats. And it was like, these are the things that I want to see, but I just have never been in the spaces. But now I feel like I have a reason to be in those spaces because I'm trying to lead ladies. While I'm trying to lead them, I want to have the experience. So I believe the intentionality of, okay, everything that I desire to see in this women's ministry, however God will allow it to come together. I don't know what the full vision is. And the only vision that I really had while I was learning how to lead this group of women, I mean, everywhere from teenage girls up to 80-some-year-old women were in this women's ministry. And my biggest thing was, okay, I have no idea what we are called. I don't know what our goal is, but all I know is that we're called to birth something. So for the next 9 months, that's what we did. I said, we're just going to literally get to know each other. And as I was getting to know them in those 9 months, God would just give me just small little insights. Okay, just like a woman with her pregnancy, there's the first trimester. You just found out, there's the excitement. So he started giving me like just little glimpses of how to just continually lead these ladies while he was also leading me and teaching me in the communication spaces and the conference spaces and the retreat spaces. So for the first 9 months of that women's ministry, we're literally getting ready to birth something.
You were in a nurturing season.
And as a collective, we don't know what it is. And the only scripture that God gave me was the scripture where Mary, Jesus' mother, and Elizabeth, who was her cousin, both women were pregnant at the same time. Didn't know that they were both pregnant. Elizabeth was older and pregnant. Mary was younger and pregnant. But God gave them both an opportunity or an encounter where Mary was to go to Elizabeth. And this is a woman who's further ahead of her, still going through some of the same things that Mary is going through, but she's older than her and she's a couple months past Mary in her pregnancy. And there was one scripture that says, and when the two met, the baby in Mary and Elizabeth leaped because of the two women coming together. So there is something in me as a woman when I connect to you as a woman that will leap. But we won't know what it is if we're not connected, if we don't get to know each other, if we don't step out on faith. So that was our ground in scripture. And it was just like something small like that where I was like, this is resonating with me, but I don't want to just stay with this one particular reference. I want to really give these women references outside of my own personal experiences. So let me get into the professional spaces. Let me go to these conferences and let me ask other women leaders who were way ahead of me, how did you do that? Okay, this is where I am. I'm in the infancy phase of starting this women's ministry, and I really feel a strong sense of responsibility that I don't want to just be out here just taking this lightly. I really feel like this is a big responsibility. This is a baby that God has given me to really nurture, and I'm doing it with other women who are also trying to figure out their purpose. What am I trying to figure? So it was investing, to answer your question, being intentional about investing not just in me, but also being intentional enough where it's like, I want to invest in these women spiritually, mentally, emotionally, invite them to other places and spaces, expose them to things as I'm being exposed. So the intentionality of investing in everything that would help nurture what God had given as far as purpose and vision for that particular women's ministry and for each woman that was in that space. So yeah, that's what my long-winded answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So the planting season was when when God showed you that there was a gap, there was something missing in that, and then sent you someone to fill that. Then you spent time nurturing it by focusing on, okay, what do I need to learn? What do I need? How do I need to grow? How can I really serve these women?
Because I wouldn't.
And what can I learn that will put me in a better serving position for these women? Wow. For me, it was once I decided, okay, I've been planting for over a decade. Now it's time for me to nurture. Now, I didn't know the verbiage, but I knew that it was time for me to build something different from what I had been already doing. Once I decided, okay, where do I want to go with this? I had to get still for a moment and figure out, what is this I'm planting? And how do I want to nurture it from here? Because I knew my heart was in advocacy. My passion and the initial goal is still there. I want to change people's perspectives. But I said, okay, with the preparation and the planning and the planting, not just the planting seeds, but the nurturing and building relationships towards what it is God is asking me to do, which is my purpose and my passion.
No, I hear you.
In the process, I'm still learning about me. Because you still got to do some pruning.
Come on.
You got to do some pruning and pulling the dead stuff.
Okay.
And Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
uh-huh. Let them use you. So, no, I'm still, pulling and planting, and not just planting, but the nurturing part. You have to do some pruning, and that's things that are not growing properly, or things that's growing there that shouldn't be there, pulling it from the root. And that's relationships. That's nurturing things that has nothing to do with your purpose. And sometimes there are things that's going to come against you that throws you off. But in essence, to get back to the question,
all good stuff.
And so much that I learned about myself, learned about, leadership and where I need to go moving forward. How to really redefine my goals and redefine people I need to connect to. And not in a way where it's part of maturity to be able to look at those connections. You can build resentment feeling like I was being used.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges that comes with it.
Yeah.
Because you don't, like in planting and leading and all the things, all you're saying is, I have this service or this product or whatever that I want to give to the world, and here I am.
Yeah.
You have no control though of how those people will come to you to get what you have. And that's the challenge that comes with in your purpose planning season. You're planning stuff and you're investing in yourself so that you can better serve others. And what comes with the territory is you have no control, and it's hard to discern immediately what the motive is of each person. And that's something that I had to learn as well. Like you mentioned with the maturity part, some of it you don't know. You just know, I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to fill a gap, or I see a need and I want to be a part, or I want to help foster this relationship or this growth amongst women, or in your case with like the awareness with families and Black families who are dealing with children with Down syndrome. I just see a need and I want to fill the gap. And it's a great thing. And it comes with its own set of challenges that can make you sometimes question if it's even worth it. Because I don't want to be used. I know, God, you want me to use me as a bridge, but we don't think about the fact that cars drive across bridges.
Right.
I mean, the bridge is there because there is something that's this side needs to connect to that side, but there needs to be something in between. And so when you allow yourself to be the bridge to connect people, there will be times when you have to have cars driven over you, or people who feel like are walking over you in order for them to get from one side to the other. And that's the hard part that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, unless you really get close to people who are in leadership who are willing to share that. And that was one of the things that was kind of I don't want to say rude awakening, but it was an awakening, I guess you can say, when the high kind of dies down, like, oh my God, we're going to do this. And you're like, yes, you're excited. I'm excited. And then you start getting different personalities and different people. And you just finished saying that you don't know what their motive is. Some people are coming because they want to network. Some people are coming because they just want to get close enough to you to find out something. Some people are coming because, hey, wait, women? Oh, somebody must be messy up in here. Let me just sit and see if there's going to be some gossip. You don't know what the motive is for each person who's coming.
Yeah.
Only over time that you start to see it. And that's the part that become like a little disheartening, because it's like, wait, didn't you see the vision that we put out, or this is the goal? And wait, the whole time you were here just to sit and see. And we keep saying what we say here as a group of women, or in this safe space, we keep it here. But then you start to hear like, wait, outside of this room, I'm hearing conversations about things that were only shared with the people in that room. So somebody betrayed that trust. Wait.
Yeah.
Or I'm here because I'm just trying to network and get my cards out. I'm doing this new business. I want y'all to support my business. Or I'm only here Sister April, I'm going to support you. I'm here for whatever you need. And you're thinking, oh, great. Woo, I get to share this leadership load with somebody. And then it's like, okay, so when we're going to catch up for lunch and dinner? It's like, yes, let's talk and converse. And then you start to hear in these one-on-one conversations, wait, we're not necessarily aligned like I thought we were. Okay, I thought you were excited to share the role, to be a support, to help like carry the load, but really Or you have a good vision, it's just not aligning with the vision that God's given me. So then it's going at it alone. That was a challenge that I felt too. Like we
Yeah.
mentioned the pruning. Sometimes there are certain relationships that you learn over time, like, okay, they served a great purpose for the season, but where we're still trying to grow too, they don't want to grow there. And so then you start seeing people fall off like leaves. Like, the springtime,
Mm-hmm.
everything blossom. In summertime, everything hot. Ooh, 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 everything
Yeah.
hot. Got our sundresses on. Everybody, ooh, girl, yeah, you cute.
Yeah.
Then fall come, and some of them leaves that were cute and pretty, leaves are necessarily going to always fall during fall, but there are some trees that naturally actually keep their leaves through all seasons. There's another subject for another day.
Hmm.
But the pruning part where you start to see there are certain leaves that are naturally are just going to fall off in this next season. And it can really make you feel sad as a leader or as a gap
Yeah.
filler or
Especially if you saw them in a certain light.
yeah.
But just like they say, every relationship, there's
Yep.
for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to develop discernment. And also, some people may come into your life and it's just for you to plant something in them.
Yeah.
And it may not be a friendship. It may not be that they're trying to use you. You may just, God sent them to you for
Yeah.
you to plant something in them, and then they go about their way.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to stop taking everything so personal.
Oh.
Yes, I was, because there was a season that I took everything personal.
Yeah.
That's a distraction.
Yeah.
That whole thing is a distraction.
Yeah.
Just stay focused.
But you don't learn
Some
that.
people you coach, you
Ooh.
share information, and sometimes I'll just send you the links to help you. Because people have to be willing to put in the work. Some people come to you, they see you're in your planting season, and they think the harvest is for them. I rather show you how to plant for yourself so you can reap your own harvest, but don't sit around waiting for mine.
Ooh, come on,
Yeah.
cultivate seeds.
Plant your own seeds.
Come on.
Nurture your own purpose.
Mm.
Instead of trying to nurture my purpose
Ooh.
so you can reap my benefits.
Wow.
No, everybody has an intention for each connection that they have, good or bad.
Yeah.
But that's where discernment comes in, and you
Yeah.
have to,
Oh, yeah.
decide and let God speak to you like something's not right about this. But just like you were saying about the leaves and the trees, sometimes when you continue to evolve, you ain't got to push them out your life. They're going to fall on their own.
Yep.
They're going to fall on their own. You have to just continue to focus on the goal.
Yeah.
Continue to focus on the goal. Nurture the relationships that you have, and you can't take everything so personal. Everybody's on their own mission.
That part.
Good or bad.
Yep.
Good or bad. Everybody's on their own mission.
Yep.
And they have their own intentions and vision or whatever. And there's some that don't have vision. And that's when I realized the thing that I learned during that season, because sometimes you go through this valley season too. That's when everything is hard.
Yeah.
And you're struggling and you're trying to figure out, God, why am I going through this? Everything is happening. You feel like everything is happening to you, but you have to realize everything is happening for you.
Come on, word.
And go to, I don't know why I laugh every time.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, you're good. Don't be discouraged during the season. Don't be, resentful toward people who are coming at you for the wrong reasons or whatever. You have to realize, I think I heard somebody say, Will Smith said, you're in a desert and you standing there with water. They're going to come to you. They're going to come to you because you have something that they need. So try not to take it so personal.
Yeah.
And don't try to hog all the water either, but
come on.
Go ahead. Here's a few sips now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole show by itself. But just you learn during that season, you grow during that season, and you nurture during that season. And part of that nurturing season, you know, like you developing us developing the skills and building relationships and all that stuff. But also, you kind of go back and forth between nurturing and planning, because the planning season is when you're building yourself. And I'm constantly working on myself. Constantly. I don't think we ever stop.
Oh, no. It's a balancing act. Definitely.
And the thing that I want to point out as far as challenges is the waiting. The waiting is hard.
Child.
And developing your patience.
Child.
What helped me develop my patience is meditating, learning to sit still. And I'm still learning and growing in that too. I've been doing it for several years now, but there's a lot of benefits to meditating. And I really advise people who are interested in it to educate themselves on it. I don't want to veer too much to the left talking about it, and it helps in the waiting season.
Yeah.
I read this quote a long time ago that says, patience is not about the wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while you wait.
Yeah.
So the waiting season, I think, is the hardest part, because it's like, come on, God.
Yeah.
Come on. I've been planting and nurturing and for years. When is it gonna? And I had to learn, don't focus on that. Don't focus on that. Don't focus on when. Focus on how. Focus on who I need to connect with. What, not in a desperate state.
Yeah. Oh,
because the Bible also say, and I try not to quote the Bible too much.
Come on.
But the quote, the scripture that resonate with me is, be anxious for nothing.
Come on, Philippians. Come on.
But pray about everything. So I try to remind myself about that when I feel anxious, like, God, come on. I need it right now. When is it going to happen? But I had to also be accountable and realize that while I was waiting, I wasn't doing what I needed to do. Again, it's not about just waiting, but it's how you wait and how you present yourself while you wait, and what type of attitude you have. Because I try to stay in a state of gratitude, no matter how bad things are, no matter what's going on in my life. I remind myself that things can always be worse. But there's a quote that says, I don't know who said it, there's always someone praying for what you're ungrateful for.
Oh, yeah.
And it's another one that says, what if you wake up with only the things that you're thankful for?
Yeah, I've heard that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really have to stay in a state of gratitude. We all have a divine purpose, and we have to get to planting. We have to get to nurturing.
Yeah.
And those are the hardest seasons, but you have to find the joy in it. It's not about the destination. People probably heard that quote too. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Yeah. You have to enjoy the journey. And I didn't know what that meant at first until I was going. And I said, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I have to enjoy all of it. Because, and not just anxious for the harvest. A long time ago, I heard Lisa Nichols, who was a part of The Secret. She was doing a speech or something like that. But anyway, I heard her say that you can't plant and harvest in the same season.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we feel a little anxious, like after a year of, as soon as you get out of school, you're like, why haven't this happened? Because you need to build relationships. You need to nurture, And I told one of my loved ones who was in college, I said, don't wait until you graduate to start building relationships. Don't wait until you graduate to start volunteering and planting the seeds. Because when you graduate, you still got to go through that season. So do it while you're in school. Then you can, after I graduated from school many, many, many years ago, many times have I went on a job and they was like, you have the education, but you don't have the experience.
Yeah.
We would hire you. I see you got to, because I have many degrees. But what I learned is that they still care about the experience. Having an education part is not enough. You still got to build relationships. You still got to plant seeds.
Yeah.
Go through that season of planting seeds. You still got to go through that season of nurturing, building relationships, learning about yourself. All the stuff that you still have to do that part. So do it simultaneously while you're working on the educational piece, while you're learning. You have to also be planting and nurturing, because then I hear people all the time, yeah, they went to school for that, but then when they graduated, they didn't get a job in that. That's because they didn't nurture it. They didn't plant any seeds in that. All they did was the educational piece. And then when they graduate, realize they can't get a job in it because you have no experience. You didn't build the relationships. You didn't do the nurturing and the planning part of it. So that's why it's critical to go through the different seasons.
It's a little journey.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
A journey that you got to plan out. And you have, anyway, I'll go down a rabbit hole with that. Okay, so what practices or habits do you find essential for nurturing the seed planting?
You actually kind of said it a bit earlier when you started hitting on pruning. I've literally started this year when we moved into our home here in Kentucky. I started the year off for whatever reason just drawn to plants. I haven't always had the green thumb, as some people say. Some years ago, there was one plant my husband we had from his grandmother's funeral that we as a family were given, and it was something that made me feel like I need to keep this plant alive. I want to take care of this plant, even though it's not his grandmother. It's something. This is the only thing that still reminds me of that day. And to see that particular plant, I was able to keep it alive. And that was about 5-6 years ago, I think. I can't, don't get me to line. I can't remember. But it's been at least 4 or 5 years for sure. And over the years, that plant, I've been able to cut it in different seasons because it kept growing so much that I started to research. What do you do when plants get to this size? And then they tell you how to cut it in a certain spot, and you can actually replant it, and you can start a whole nother plant. And we've had so many plants that have come from that one plant, all because I was learning how to cut back, or when you leave it outside, or when it gets this kind of exposure, you may see some brown leaves, or it may be for overwatering or underwatering. So learning that there is a pruning season, there's a watering season, there's a waiting season, like you said. Sometimes it's just not growing as quick. Sometimes you put it in the right space, in the right window, at the right angle, it just flourishes on its own. And this year, we've been able to bring that plant and the other plants that have come from that, and I bought some new ones. And being in Kentucky, the weather is kind of like, it's cold, hot, in between. And so some of my plants have had to be transplanted from where we were in Mississippi and Arkansas. The temperature up here, the climate's different. So trying to see, why is it not flourishing as much? Or wait a minute, why? The environment's different.
Wow.
So because the environment's different, I have to learn, what is this environment? Like, how can I still grow this plant? Because the plant can grow, it can survive. I just need to learn, okay, I may have to prune it because it's still adapting to this new season, this new environment. The way it is outside versus the way it is when you bring it inside during the cold seasons. So the pruning part, the waiting part, the seeing that it's just not growing, or as much as I hate to, I have to cut it back or it's growing so much, I need to get it repotted. I need to get a bigger planter for it. It needs to be in a bigger pot itself. It's outgrown those pots. So learning how to adjust, learning that I will have to cut back in certain seasons. And again, I'm kind of sticking with the planning terminology since that's kind of like the vein we're in. But even on a practical level, recognizing that everyone can't go to every season with me, or they'll have to adjust and adapt. Like I'm having to learn and adjust and adapt. Friendships look different. Relationships look different. Purpose is still there, but the way it's manifested, it looks a bit different. So I may have to cut back in how much time I love my sleep. Lord knows I do. I do need it for health reasons to balance myself. But I also have to recognize there are some seasons I may have to just get some naps to kind of supplement some sleep so that I can get up earlier and have some quiet time, or because I may need to stay up a little bit later to be able to sit again in their quiet space and just hear God, and God, what are you saying and what are you doing? So adjusting, pruning, investing, quiet time. You mentioned meditating. I wholeheartedly agree with meditation and quiet time, and even if it's just 5 minutes that I just set on my phone, like, okay, my alarm is going off before the kids get out of school, and I have to switch into all the goings and comings of all the different activities and the management of all the calendars and stuff. Okay, an hour before they get out of school, my alarm is going off. That's my alarm or something to myself. Hey, before you switch or put on a different hat, there are certain hats you just have to wear for certain roles that you play. All of them are playing a part for the overall purpose and the overall vision, but to still make sure I keep that balance within myself. An hour before the kids get home, my phone's going off. And that's my, okay, let me wrap up whatever, whether I'm studying or I'm running errands or I'm doing my volunteer work or advocacy work, that hour before, or whatever time it is, depending on the day, it's my reminder to myself, before you switch into full mama mode, before you switch into full volunteer mode, be quiet, sit still long enough. Okay, what have you done this much in your day that is beneficial? What have you already spent too much time in that you need to just put that on the list for tomorrow? It's all those things of learning where to invest, where to prune, where to cut back, where to sit. And like you said earlier, it's a balancing act, because you're always planting and nurturing, planting and nurturing, planting and nurturing. As you plant a seed, you nurture the seed. Some seeds don't always pop up. Some seeds, it may take a little bit longer.
On my duds.
Yeah, so it just, or just does, and you don't throw away the whole harvest like, oh, everything is just, no, okay, you throw
you
it
don't
all.
tear up the whole garden just because you.
Listen. I mean, and that's just part of, it's just like not everything will land, not everything will come to fruition.
Yeah.
But God, I'm gonna throw everything I have out there, and some seeds will actually hit. And there's scripture you were talking about, certain references or quotes. There's scripture about it, like some seeds fell on this type of ground, some seeds fell on stormy ground, some seeds fell on shaky ground, some seeds they actually manifested, but then they ended up getting trotted up real quickly because they didn't get deeply rooted. It's so many different types of soils out there and so many types of seeds. So recognizing that not all the things that I'm throwing all my effort at, I may not see a harvest from, and being okay with it, but I still continue. Like you said, I'm still gonna keep planting, and I'm still gonna keep nurturing. I may need to cut back, pull back some of this soil. Let me prune around this soil. Let me water this soil. All that nurturing, planting and nurturing, is a balancing act. So yeah, all of that to come back to saying the same thing with the patience and the intentional action. You have to continue to work at it. You can't just throw it out there and just hope. I'm just going to hope. I'm just going to sit here. I threw the seeds out, Lord. Now I'm just going to sit in the house and just look at it. Day after day, I'm just going to look. No, you okay? Is it, has enough sunlight been out? Maybe you need to water it some more. You have to still work at that thing. So
you can't just plant it and then be mad.
Yeah. Oh, listen.
You didn't nurture it. You didn't do anything to it, but you just threw the seeds in some dirt, and now you sitting there waiting on it to harvest, but you haven't done anything to help it grow.
Right.
And then when it did start growing, it's growing all crooked. You
got to put barriers around it.
Right.
Yeah, certain things to keep it growing straight up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And learning from it. And I went through that season too. I don't know what it was. It was, I bought a bonsai tree, and I was obsessed with getting one. I was excited, and I had never had any urge to care for anything. I mean, any plants or anything like that.
I get you.
But I just had this strong desire to, and I bought it and I pruned it, and I was like, I got to care for this tree. I feel like it was something spiritual that was driving me to do that. But I want to say too that when you do get duds,
and you will,
you will get duds, because you're learning yourself phase,
yeah,
and learning what you're passionate and what you're not passionate about and all that stuff. But even in that, you're learning something.
yeah,
There's something in it to learn and to grow about yourself. And part of the pruning stage is also pruning some things about you. It's not just about pruning about what's going on the outside. It's some things
yeah,
that you may need to prune on the inside. And that's, for me, it was breaking some habits. It was, like you were saying, balancing your sleep. It was developing habits,
yeah,
better habits. It was, the pruning is also eating better and
yeah,
learning how to work out. And, because you can't just take care of that. You got to take care of yourself too.
yeah.
And I think a lot of times we lose sight of ourselves in this process. If you ever read The 7 Habits of Successful People, one of the things is they take care of themselves.
Yep.
They take care of themselves. So you have to, and lean not on your own understanding.
You better drop these scriptures. Okay.
What?
I'm sorry.
Because a lot of times people will be like, well, this just how I am. No, you have to take time. If your goal is to be this, to be, for example, to be a producer, then you gonna have to learn how to be a producer. You can't just base it on what you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You need to learn how to structure, organization, how to do the paperwork, how to do the stuff that you don't want to do. Even if you're going to hire somebody, you need to know how to do it.
Still, that part, yeah.
Still. So it's you got to go through the nurturing and the planting seed season. You have to. It can't be avoided. You can't reap a harvest now unless you can afford to buy a already reaped harvest.
Wait, say that one more time. Come on.
Unless you can afford to buy a garden that has been already nurtured and all that stuff, like you buy something that's already on the level you want, unless you got that kind of money where you can buy into it.
Yeah, I got you.
You still have to go through the season. And even if you do buy into it, you still have to learn the things, because if in order to maintain it, you can't maintain it if you don't know anything about what you just purchased.
We'll talk about it, Sister Yvonne. Talk about it.
Huh? Huh? Let them use you.
Listen.
No, but you got. You really have to develop
you do.
the habits and the practices that it takes to get to where you're going, and don't be discouraged.
Yeah.
Don't be discouraged when you're in that season and things are not, budding the way you want it to, because sometimes the roots are still spreading before it comes out of the ground. It's a picture, it's a meme. I can see it in my head. It's a meme where it's two people. One person, they see what's come out above ground, and the other person is discouraged because they don't see it above ground, but what's underground may be a carrot.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
It may be whatever is sprouting hidden where you can't see it. And sometimes just because you see somebody else's, you don't know what's going on with yours. You have to continue to nurture it and do the things. I was going to say your words, and do all the things that you need to do to make it sprout. Sometimes you don't see God working, but that don't mean he's not working.
That part. Come
That's why you have to, they say, to walk by faith and not by sight, because what you see, God, you don't know what conversations are going on.
Listen.
Or what doors are being unlocked that you haven't reached yet. You just continue to plant your seeds, water it, nurture it, build the relationships, do your part, because God is doing his part. So before we go, what advice would you give your younger self to prep her for the planting and nurturing season?
Listen, I'm still growing or speaking to little April. Little April, I just love her. And the 42-year-old me is just so appreciative of her. And I'm going to always be loving and protecting little April. So the fact that you said that, I would just continue to tell little April all the introversion that she didn't even know was introversion. She just thought she was shy, but really in her quiet moments, she was creating little worlds with her little blocks, those wooden blocks. I don't know if people remember the little wooden blocks from back in the day with the ABCs all on the side.
Yeah.
Little April would spend days during the summer when she wasn't hanging out with her cousins outside, whenever they were all over to the house. She would be in the house on that rusted red carpet, that shag carpet, with the wood paneling all in the room. So that's back in the 80s, y'all. She was building her own little city. She had all this vision about, and it was just like her own little world. She would just use her building blocks and say, okay, this is going to be the neighborhood. This is the community on this side. Okay, and over here it's going to be Miss So-and-so house. And over here it's going to be where you go to the grocery store. That was her thing for the longest. That was her little world, between reading and building with her building blocks. And then when she went outside with her cousins on her big wheel, she would then take what she saw in her head from books and from those building blocks, and she would just go through the whole neighborhood and see, oh, those same little areas that she saw with the little communities with her building blocks. Oh, now that real house that I'm seeing in this neighborhood. Okay, y'all, this is really the community center right here. Oh, that's the grocery store right here. Little April had such creativity in her own mind and space and in her own little world that she actually gave it up over time because other people didn't see what she saw.
Yeah.
She saw something, didn't know what she was seeing. It was just in her own little world, her own little quiet space. And over time, she kind of gave up on a lot of those things. She gave up on the quiet time. She gave up on reading and investing in those little dreams that she had, where she could see something before she saw something. That statement of you got to see it before you see it. She saw stuff when she was younger, and she would try to explain it to people. They were like, okay, now you didn't been talking about that for long enough. It's time for you to grow up. And so she believed that in order to grow up, she had to give up certain things because other people didn't see what she saw. And so what I would encourage or even say to the younger April, you're going to see it in ways that will blow your mind as you continue to get older. So don't give up. Don't put those dreams to the side. Don't put those little building blocks to the side. And the older April has now gotten invested into Legos. I'm in a hole this year between the plants and Legos. This has been my planting and building year, literally and figuratively. Figuratively, because I have plants everywhere in my sitting space in different parts of my house. But even with the Lego, when I saw that Lego store in Columbus, Ohio for a visit, I almost lost my ever-loving mind, and I didn't know why. And it took me some time to realize this reminds me of when I was a kid. But now they have taken Legos to the level you can build kits, you can build all these. And so I'm currently, this is my own little personal something, just as something for little April to see. I'm literally working on, however long it takes, building my own little city from my Lego kits, and went to a Lego conference and found out all these things about how I can build what I have seen in my head. And I see other people who are like, oh yeah, you can do that. This is all you need. And it has just reignited the little April's vision. You saw something when you were little. Now you're getting to see it in a little playful way through Legos, but I'm also getting to see it in the relationships that I've been able to build the women's ministry, even though I'm not the women's ministry lead there anymore because of moving. Our family's moved a few times. Even though I'm not the lead there anymore, there's still relationships and seeds that have been built. And being a transplant, that's another word that I started to. I've been transplanted from Memphis and Arkansas to now Kentucky. But in transplanting, you're in one season, but you get to be moved. You're still who you are, but you're in a different area and in a different space. And I'm getting to see some fruit and flowers. It's fruits, it's flowers, all kind of stuff that's coming off in this season from the seeds that God has planted over the years. So again, to answer the question of to little April, all of it is going to come into play some kind of way. Your heart and your vision and your creativity and your quietness and your quirkiness, all of it will have a place. Don't give up on it. They may not see it. They may not understand it. But something, just keep that little spark there. Keep that seed there. Keep nurturing that seed. Keep protecting that seed. And it's going to have a harvest that's going to look like something way bigger than what your little 6-7-year-old mind can see right now. So yeah, that's what I would tell them.
Wow. So the younger Yvonne, I would tell her that the trauma that she's endured will be a part of her purpose. And I would tell her not to be afraid of the calling on her life. Instead of running from it, to run to it. And to plant and to not be so focused on my shortcomings that I delay me even going into the planting and nurturing season. I avoided my purpose for many, many, many years because of not feeling worthy enough. But I would let her know that he called you. He didn't call anybody else to do what you are purposed to do. He called you, and he know who you are. You don't have to question if he called the wrong number. He called you. God gave me a vision for a film, and I kept trying to get other people to write it because I didn't feel that I was qualified.
Oh, I know that.
It was such a challenge trying to get other people to do it because they couldn't see the vision.
That part.
And it wasn't meant for them to see the vision because it wasn't given to them. So the younger me, I would let her know that it's okay. The nurturing season is for her to learn what she needs to learn in order to do what she's been called to do. And not to be so caught up on not being good enough. And not feeling worthy enough. And not to waste so much time running from herself, because it's definitely a lot of time that has went by that I was just so focused on running because I was afraid. And it's not fear of what people think. It really is not. It was what I was thinking about myself. Because when you know you for example, when you know you cute, you don't care if they like your outfit or not.
What you said, come on.
You ain't like, ooh, do they, what they think about. You don't care. Because you are confident and you look in the mirror and you loving that outfit that you bought. The only time you care and you're asking what you think of this is when you have your own doubts. Now, there are people that care about everything that people think. But for me, I only care when I have doubts about it. And so ultimately, it's not about what people think. The only people you should really be concerned about is God, yourself. Now, I do care about what my children think. And I care about what my husband thinks. But ultimately, it's what God thinks and what I think. When it comes to purpose and when it comes to talking to my younger self, ultimately, it's really, really, really critical that she understand that she is loved, she's worthy, and that she has a greater purpose than what she's been through.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And you will learn how to read.
And you will be writing stories. You will be
She
writing
will
plays.
learn how to read. And right.
Listen.
So, April, thank you so much for your transparency.
Thank you, Yvonne. I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
For sure.
This was really good. Yeah. So, to the listeners, I wholeheartedly appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah.
And listening time and time again. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you were encouraged and that you think about what season you're in and really think about what you need to do during this season and realize that there's purpose. There's a greater divine purpose on your life, and to push if what's standing in your way is fear or self-doubt or anything, to really think about what you need to prune on the outside and on the inside.
Yeah.
To get in touch with either one of us, our contact information is in the description of this episode. I hope that you find each episode to be valuable. Remember, investing in your intentional healing and growth is a gift to yourself. Until next time, be blessed.
Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About Healing with Yvonne Pierre. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share.